Hello, welcome back to this CGSP interview, the China in the Global South project interview, where we receive business leaders, politicians, decision makers on the continent, and elsewhere to talk about any issue related to China in the Global South. And today we're gonna go back on the continent of Africa, where 2 weeks ago, US President Joe Biden visited Angola for a 3-day state visit that was presented as historical for both countries' relation. And I believe it was the first time an American president was visiting in Angola, given the tumultuous relationship those two countries had in the past. And his visit was also something quite interesting and important in so many ways for the business world and also for geopolitical purposes, in a sense where it was coming in Angola with one main project in mind, the Lobito Corridor project, and also from the geopolitical perspective, it was coming in a sense where the Lobito Corridor project is presented as that tool, as that first step of the US trying to counter China influence, not only in Angola, in the region of SADC region, also in the whole continent. So at the center of it, as I was saying, the Lobito Corridor project, a project that was initially a concession contract with the Angolan government, given the concession to the Trafigura consortium, where we find Trafigura, Motaengil, Victories. And then we had the US coming in, financing the consortium also, but also expanding the scope of the project. Now we are talking about agriculture, connectivity, solar power project. We are talking about, we went from what was maybe a $600 million project to sometime we're now talking about a $6 billion project. A Lobito corridor that's aimed to unlock the possibility and a wide range of opportunities, not only for Angola, but for the region as a whole. And to talk about all of that, I'm receiving Zandre Campos, a business leader and currently the chairman of and CEO of ABO Capital. ABO, that stands for African Business Opportunity Capital, an international investment firm that builds opportunities and in emerging markets across Africa. Zandre, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a real pleasure to have you for this conversation. And as we were preparing this show, I was saying that really you reached out to us to have that conversation. And we were really looking for people that can really give us a light and understanding of what that visit represented for Angola. So let's go straight to the point. How important was Joe Biden's visit to Angola from the business perspective, being the businessman that you are?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think that we have been placing the importance of the Joe Biden's American president to Angola, but I would rephrase it. I think it's not an important visit to Angola, it's an important visit to Africa. It was the sole visit that President Biden did to Africa. And yes, the geographic location and positioning was Angola, but don't forget that this visit had the presence of Zambia, Congo, Tanzania, and other African countries. So I think that it was geographic in Angola, but was an important visit for Africa and has made a tremendous effect on the U.S. presence in the continent.
So how, at the center of the visit, as I said, it was the Lobito Corridor project. And how that project now that has been expanded beyond the logistic concession that Angola has it rewarded the Trafigura, now being expanded to agriculture, technology, innovation, and all of that. How that is important for the country, for Angola, and for the region?
Yeah, I think that it is on the same line. It's an important project for the region, of course. It's an important project as businessmen towards the diversification perspective that Africa needs to have. Okay, so if you look at the American investments in Angola, at least the relationship with Angola has started a long time ago, but it was solely on the oil and gas sector. So this shift to the Lobito Corridor, tackling the transportation sector, plus adding all the other sectors that today are being plugging in, is I think a very interesting study case in order to us Africans look more deeply to the diversification. Of course, the main objective of the Lobito Corridor, and Lobito Corridor has been there forever. We are
Exactly. Yeah.
listening to the corridor like it's something new. It's not
Exactly.
something new.
Exactly.
There
Yeah.
has been managed by the UK for a long time. And of course, the first objective of the service of that specific strategic project was the minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was. But now, with all these plug-in objectives that we are seeing with the developing of it, and with the developing of this discussion, is that with that, a lot of things can come along, and of benefiting Africa in those things. Let's in the discussion. I think it's really interesting on the comparison. We should look at the Atlantic solution with the Lobito Corridor as an alternative to all the other solutions that are already being placed there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if we see
Mm-hmm.
examples of other continents, Europe perhaps, Europe has a lot of ports, a lot of different entrance and
Ex-
exits. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Even today, with the problem that we are facing in the world, with the war in Russia, with the problem with Ukraine ports, and this, you see what effect has this being pushed on the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we, as Africans, should look at the Lobito Corridor as an alternative, once, of all the other places that are already being used or will be used in the future, and also as a boost on the diversification.
Mm-hmm. You talked about diversification, you talk about alternative. There are a few questions that's coming into my mind. I'm gonna try to organize them so we can really keep a good conversation. Diversification. Before going to diversification, let me just dig first into the opportunities. You are the chairman
Mhm.
of African Business Opportunities, and with everything, all the plugins that Lobito is coming in, you in your everyday life, in the way you see your institutions, how the Lobito is going to unlock opportunities for you and the many businesses that you are accompanying in Angola.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one and a tough one. Uh, I'll try to answer as I always do with the basics, right? First of all, has helped in putting in the map Angola,
Yeah.
right? People, when mostly in the US, when you say that you're from Angola, they would think that is Angola the prison. I think there is a maximum security prison with the same name of my country. So they go first there, okay?
Yes.
Then you have to explain. You say, okay, Congo. You see Congo, okay. Then you
Yeah.
go down, get Angola, and then Namibia, and then South Africa. South
Yeah.
Africa, everybody. So with the Lobito Corridor, at least for me as a businessman, on tackling the investment world, it has put in Angola in the map.
Mm-hmm.
So one. Second, it has put it Angola in the map different as it was in the past on the oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
So all the oil and gas companies, they do know Angola. They know what are the brands, the quality, the capacity, the problems of the oil and gas sector. They know, they are
Mm-hmm.
aware. But nothing has been told or has been spoken about all the other sectors that are still there. So
Yeah.
Angola has 1,550 kilometers of coast. So meaning tourism is an amazing opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
investment. Angola has more arable land than Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning agriculture and all the other steps are there and are huge potential. But up to now, because it was not on the investment map or the Western or the US investment map,
Mm-hmm.
this was very different to pitch. Okay. So I think now with the conversation, at least the publicity of the visit plus the conversation on the Lobito corridor, we have been put it in a map and there is less explanation that you need to do for the country. So for
Mm-hmm.
me as a businessman, I think this is incredible.
The exposure that the Lobito Corridor is providing to Angola is tremendous. No one can deny it. Now, I think for the last week, for the last 2 weeks, me covering the topic, I've seen Angola and Lobito Corridor coming in so different shape and form in different media in the
Exactly.
West, in even in East Europe, where now people are talking about it, which is a good thing. Which is basically a good thing, as you say, as a businessman, you'd like your country to be now being situated on the map. So once someone, a businessman in Washington, when they say Angola, at least they can put it on the map and they say why they put it on the map. And this is the part that you've made a comment that's going to lead me back to the element of diversification, not from the content of it, but in terms of actors and stakeholders in what Angola in the business world in Angola. You mentioned that for a long time Angola was really that country that was away from the business investment from in the Europe or in the US. They're not mentioning Angola. But in the meantime, during that time, there's one country that was really quite present. China was present. Chinese investment were really present in Angola, unlocking so many things. Talking about the Lobito Corridor, Benguela Railway was refurbished by Chinese money until 2013 for I think for 1.8 billion dollars. So during this visit, the Lobito Corridor was also presented as that geopolitical tool for the US to counter China influence in Angola or in the region. Do you have the same feeling or the same perception that Angola kind of get himself into a geopolitical battle, or you have the perception that you know what, just diversifying our partners. We had China for quite some time, and now we want to expand it to different partners. What you're reading on that?
Okay, that's another tough one. I think you're not helping me, by the way. But I'm not a politician, and I'm not here to do a speculation, at
Yeah.
least political speculation. Anyhow, my vision is a little bit different of the way you have put it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you go backwards, you have always had in Angola different investments. Okay. And my view, of course, I'm not a specialist on the subject, but my view was that it was a very diversified piece of pie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You
Yes.
had UK, you had France, you have the US, and you have others. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly on the oil and gas. And
Mm-hmm.
don't forget, if you look at the past, oil and gas used to represent around 80 to 90% of our GDP. So when people say that in the past we didn't have that type of investment, I normally I would say yes if
If you
you're
all,
considering
yeah,
diversification, okay?
yeah.
If you're not considering the diversification debate and you are solely speaking about the country, for sure that this has a different view. Anyhow, tackling the point that you have made, uh, I, 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 I foresee and I see that this Lobito corridor discussion can really bring us to a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it as we are choosing the US against China.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the numbers last year, I think China continued to be of making more investments even than the US.
Mm-hmm.
And it would happen perhaps this year. So the
Mm-hmm.
presence of China has been there
Mm-hmm.
and will continue, and we hope so. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they have been present since more than 50 years in the country, and I think that in a very interesting way that can add for us. I think this was a decision solely on the interest of what is today the strategic plan of Angola
Mm-hmm.
and what is today the benefit that we can get in that perspective. If you look, if you ask me, hopefully, what would be the ultimate goal on the Lobito corridor perspective? I think with this trend of utilizing the US investment, Trafigura, Motengio, and all the other companies that you have spoken about it, I would like to see the Lobito corridor and the stock exchange in UK and the stock exchange in the US. As an investor,
Mm-hmm.
and as the ultimate goal, that would then bring to the country something that Africa has not had up to now.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing a sole perspective of a real PPP and growing it
Mm-hmm.
towards that objective. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that the fight today is bipolar
Exactly. Yeah.
perspective in where you have one side China and the other side the US. but I don't really foresee that this would be a problem for
Mm-hmm.
whatever are the objectives of Angola today. As a
Mm-hmm.
businessman, I am fully comfortable to work with Chinese investors. I'm fully comfortable to work with US investors, and I think that they can bring to us very good perspectives.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your dream about the Lobito Corridor to see it really now being on the London Stock Exchange or even Toronto or elsewhere in the world, where really becoming one that symbol is a good symbol of a good PPP that really can unlock opportunities, can unlock businesses for not only Angola, for the region as well. So
Mhm.
that dream that you do have, that vision that you do have, aren't you worried now in the US? We are talking about President Trump coming back in power in January. It's already been done. We're going to wait for his investors is taking off on January. Are you not worried that there are conversations that maybe the DFC, the Development Fund Corporation in the US, that are funding the Lobito Corridor project, not only the Benguela Railway, but all the extension, that they may cut financing on the project? Are you not worried about the financing of the Lobito Corridor project if ever new President Trump decide to cut it off? Or do you see, how do you see that to play for Angola?
Yeah, that's also a tough one,
I'm gonna
and
try to make
more,
easy question next time.
more more on the political side than on the business one. Of course, there is a lot of political material that
Yes.
you need to consume in order to respond to this one. But again, on the simple way, in my perspective, I don't foresee that any leader in the world would ignore the benefits of the project.
Mm-hmm.
I don't foresee that. Trump, as the president of the US, for sure has and knows the importance of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see changes
Mm-hmm.
coming from this changing on the US administration, even though, hypothetically speaking, even though if that was the case, with the publicity that today the Lobito Corridor has, I think that it would be very easy to
Mm-hmm.
find an investor. It would be
Mm-hmm.
very easy. It has been sold. It's
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yes.
It's finished. There's, of course, if it is not with US investment, it could be with European investment. It could be with Chinese investment. It could be with investment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the groundwork has been done
Mm-hmm.
and has put the project in the level, in the way that today is very easy to bank. It's very easy even to go straight to the stock exchange and say, hey, I have this. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have no more investments from the US, but are you guys interested?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a success case, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
That's true. That's making it's really the point that you're making. It's really one of the point I've made last week when I was saying, and I think I teased many people when I was saying that. Do you know what, the Lobito Corridor is not a U.S. project? It's an Angolan project, and I think it's strong enough today to stand on its own, even if Donald Trump decide to cut funding. The project is viable, it's economically viable and solid enough to attract money coming from Europe, China, and elsewhere. And I said,
I,
mind you, currently DFC is not the only one funding it. We also have DBSA from South Africa funding the
yeah.
Lobito Corridor project.
Could
So,
be,
which now,
it could be also an African project.
exactly,
The African
exactly,
countries could, join together and say, hey, we will find it ourselves. It's
exactly,
possible.
exactly.
At
And
least we
since,
have something that can be presented to the world
Mhm,
and that can really bring benefits on
mhm.
whatever we are today.
And since we are talking about Africa, it being an African project, earlier you've mentioned about the opportunities that the Lobito can unlock. We have also mentioned that we had President of DRC, Zambia, and Tanzania being present, and we all see the potential that's there. So how the region can take the opportunity and to with the bank with the Lobito project to really unlock new business opportunities that can boost development, trade relation in the region. How they can benefit from that, and what
Yeah, I
action can
think,
be taken to really
yeah.
make that a real project that can boost development for the region.
Look, I think there is a huge opportunity for us Africans to uh, start with, cleaning our house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that one of the most important things is getting this opportunity to, I would say, be more efficient on the transparency,
Mm-hmm.
on the openness. Okay. We still have our borders closed to us, Africans, and to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that on that perspective, the transparency is very, very, very important. I think we have something that is in our favor, but we don't maximize. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why we're investing in education. We have a lot of people, but we don't have qualified laborers. Okay. So the education point of view of whatever is the objective of Africa should be put in again in the table, going to
Mm-hmm.
the basics. Okay, and education doesn't mean unfortunately, this is what is happening in our country. Everybody wants to go to college to be and get a PhD, and this is not
The
education. This is
degree,
not
the degree from
talking about
university
okay, then put
opens
a
and unlock
tie and get
doors. Exactly.
no.
We own the office job.
So I think that if we get the opportunity that and the publicity and the placement of this project that has been put it today in the market and clean a little bit our house and going okay what can we improve in transparency, what does the investment world need in order to be able to look at us and understand what is inside.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency. Look at us and understand what is our labor, what is our laws, what are our systems. So I think that if we do that at the same time that we are promoting and looking for investments, at the time that this match, we will have, of course, benefits, real benefits from this project,
Mm-hmm.
not only for Angola, but also the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned we talked about how much the Lobito Corridor relies on a lot of natural resources export from the DRC, the mining sector in the DRC, and there are talks as if that the Benguela is built for the DRC, made basically to export natural resources from the DRC. I know many of my countrymates are not really happy about that. They really made a huge fuss around that. So for me, it was like to understand if that sense of natural resources being the main source, the main business idea around the Lobito would have been is this a strength or a weaknesses for the Lobito corridor? Because at some point, if the DRC decides, because you've mentioned the fact that it's also an alternative to other routes, being Durban, being Dar es Salaam, being Beira, being all of that, it's also another route. Do you see that the project can stand itself even without natural resources coming out of the DRC, the mining come out of DRC?
Ah,
I hope
Jesus.
it's not a tough one.
Yeah, yeah, you always put me in the very difficult. This and I think again, it's a proof of a success case.
Hmm.
Okay, why? First of all, I would use the word that is integration.
Yes.
That is very difficult in our continent.
Hmm.
Integration. Okay,
Yes.
so let's use the three main countries on this project. I will say Congo. You agree with me?
Yes, I agree with you.
Angola
I
and
agree.
Zambia.
Exactly.
Okay. What is the official language of Congo?
French,
Okay, good. Sorry. What is the official language of Angola?
Portuguese,
Very good. And what is the official language of Zambia?
English.
Very good. So, this project is a proof story of integration. We
Hmm.
have three countries with different languages that,
Hmm.
for some reason, are being put together,
Hmm.
right? And something that could be seen as a differentiation that could put us apart is
Hmm.
really bringing us together,
Hmm.
right?
Yes,
You agree with me on
I
that.
agree with that.
Nobody is raising it, okay? There's a lot of translation that needs to occur
Yeah,
in
because a
the
lot of people are talking much
communication,
more about the geopolitical of it
culturally.
than the really happening in terms of integration, people to people exchange as well.
Is very important. Then, even if the first door, I don't agree what that was the rationale, but even if the first door was the minerals, today, as we are Angolan speaking about the importance of diversification, today is not the main objective of the corridor.
Hmm.
And we can really utilize the corridor to boost diversification. Okay.
Yes.
There are some goods that are today being produced in Congo that could very easily reach Angola and Zambia
Exactly. Yeah.
as we speak. And there are things that are being produced in Angola or Zambia that can very easily reach Congo by utilizing the same corridor that is bringing or taking minerals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then, if we get out of Africa and we look at all the other projects and ports and railways, this is what is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because as Africa, we have to have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't understand. So I really believe that this is a project that has proved that is a synonym of integration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult. It has been really difficult, the relationship with Congo, as it has been really difficult, the relationship with Zambia,
Mm-hmm.
historically speaking, right?
True.
But even though we have something that we need to collaborate, we need to integrate, we
Mm-hmm.
need to adjust. And
Mm-hmm.
this thing is the Lobito Corridor. That's my perspective.
Last question for you. One
Thank
of the
you.
one of, one of the corridor that's been put on side by side with the Lobito. It's another project, the Tazara one, Tazara on the still Zambian Tanzania railway, where we see now China is going to put $1 billion there. And given how the trade is happening in the region, a lot of trade happening on the Indian Oceans, export to China coming from China as well. As an Angolan businessman, looking at the Lobito ports and looking how there's not much of a trade compared to what we see on the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. Do you share the sense of worry that maybe if the Tazara is refurbished, if it's modernized, if the Port of Dar es Salaam is also modernized, it can become a threat or an opportunity for the both side, Angola and Tanzania or Zambia? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think again, going back to the minerals as
Yes,
the common base of it. If we have the minerals of our common base, and if the objective of the project is only transporting the minerals, there is a huge question mark and maybe a alarm already
exactly.
perspective. But I don't believe it's that. I really
Mm-hmm.
believe that it can do both.
Mm-hmm.
And with both projects, we as Africans should be looking out how can we benefit of it?
Mm-hmm.
What can we now start putting on those railways to maximize and make it more profitable for us? Forget about the investors. Okay, now let's
Exactly.
see what is the opportunity. What can we build in that railway, and what can we send to Congo and then to Tanzania and to the rest of Africa by utilizing both projects. So
Exactly.
I think that there is always and should be geopolitical fights, and I'm not there,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, in the political environment. But for us as Africans, for us as businessmen, I foresee as an opportunity. Yeah. Then you can put all the questions that you can, who's going to pay, how is it going to be profitable, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But if we reduce it to basics, and if us as Africans start looking at it as an opportunity, we should be now discussing what are we going to develop now? How can
Exactly.
we, surf this wave? Okay.
Exactly. The Lobito Corridor Project, one of the main US-backed projects on the continent, is looking forward to unlock potential for Angola, Zambia, DRC, and maybe the whole sub-Saharan Africa region. It's really something that we're gonna have to look into in the coming months. We're gonna, with Donald Trump coming into office in January, we're gonna see what's going to remain, what's going to be left alone, or what's going to be backed, continue to be backed. And as we've seen and they've covered before, we've said that the Lobito Corridor is strong enough today to be able to attract all type of financing, not only coming from the US, but also from Europe and also maybe from China as well. So all of that was part of the conversation I had with Zandre Campo. It was really nice to have you for this conversation. And for you, for the rest of you, I'm going to see you another time for another CGSP interview. See you next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having. Thank you.